Picture yourself on an uneven cobblestone road. Dilapidated columns tower above your head, their Roman glory chipped and worn. Trunks of marble and sandstone litter your path. The road has ruts where carts ported fresh produce and various goods. If you close your eyes, you can imagine the city in the 3rd century, when it was at its pinnacle. This town was called Tedmor. Now it is known as Palmyra, and it is located in present-day Syria. Its importance as a trading center made it a highly valued prize in many great leaders' minds. Palmyra gained its most famous and tragic chapter of its history due to the raging conflict between Zenobia, Queen of Palmyra, and Emperor Aurelian of Rome. The tension began when Zenobia married Septimus Odenathus, whose family was appointed by Rome to govern the Palmyrene Empire. It is evident that Odenathus had plans to secede from the Roman Empire, but he was murdered in 267 A.D. before his goal was achieved. Immediately following her husband's death, Zenobia placed her underage son, Wahhabalath, on the throne. It was through him that she seized power. This act made many think she had blood on her hands. Zenobia was no ordinary woman. Her conduct conflicted with all the stereotypes of the time. She frequently hunted lions, panthers, and bears for sport. Though she was strong, she was not unrefined. Many said her beauty was immaculate, and she had an air of sophistication. She spoke Latin, Greek, and Egyptian. Her tutor, Cassius Dionysius Longinus, was held in high esteem by the educated of Rome. He wrote On the Sublime, a book of notability. Her strength and sharpness were acknowledged by many scholarly figures. For example, the English poet Chaucer praised her in the Canterbury Tales for her strong personality and wittiness, when he stated, that no wight passed her in hardiness, nor in lineage, nor in gentleness. Of the king's blood of Perse is she descended. I say not that she had most fairness, but of her shape she might not be amended. Her taste for glory was acute. Following the footsteps of her husband, she continued to expand her regime through conflict. She began with her homeland, Syria. In 269 A.D., she defeated the Roman general Heraclianus and won the whole of Syria. Encouraged by the victory, she invaded Egypt, Anatolia, and Ankara. As can be imagined, Rome felt threatened by the expanding nation, and they would have retaliated, but at the time the Emperor Claudius was busy fighting the Goths. Zenobia became overconfident in her achievements. In 271 A.D., she renamed herself Augusta, a title reserved for Roman royalty. Her court was sure that Palmyra could take any enemy that challenged them. By this time, Claudius was murdered, and a new emperor was appointed, Emperor Lucius Domitius Aurelianus. Aurelian came from a humble background. As the son of a farmer, he slowly rose through the military ranks until he became a general for Claudius. His achievements portray his strong and grasping personality. He strictly punished his men for drinking, gambling, pillaging civilians, and even clumsiness. His style of discipline could be seen as ruthless. It is recorded that when he found out a soldier violated the law, Aurelian had 2 flexible trees pulled together, and he tied the soldier's limbs to the branches. When the trees were released, the man's arms and legs were torn off by the pull. His supervisors and ministers all feared him. By the time Aurelian had turned his eyes to Palmyra, he had been in office for 2 years and had cleaned up conflicts with the Goths, regained Gaul, Spain, and Britain to the Roman Empire. As a warning to Zenobia, on Roman coins he printed his face on one side and Restitutor Orientis, or Restorer of the Orient, on the other. Infuriated by the slight, Zenobia had Palmyrene coins, which previously had Aurelian's face on one side and Wahhabalath's on the reverse side, modified. The new coins portrayed Zenobia on the coin in place of Aurelian. At this act, the outraged Aurelian decided to begin an invasion. As his army went through the land, they did not pillage and attack. The villages along the Romans' path surrendered without confrontation, as they were terrified at the sight of the large army. Aurelian realized that this would be the case, so he compromised with the towns, leaving them in peace if they joined him. As word of this welcome began to spread, cities started crossing over to Rome before Romans ever arrived. To many people, Rome was more fearful than the Palmyrene queen. Zenobia was unaware of these actions, and continued proudly to exert her authority. According to Flavius Vopiscus, an Augustan historian, Zenobia replied to a letter from Aurelian in which he asked for her to surrender. The Persians do not abandon us, and we will wait their succors. The Saracens and the Armenians are on our side. The brigands of Syria have defeated your army. O Aurelian, what will it be when we have received the reinforcement which come to us from all sides? As a response, Aurelian's next move was to secure Zenobia's allies to his side. The Persians were already preoccupied. Their leader, Sapor I, died, leaving his council in confusion. Aurelian compromised with the Saracens and the Armenians, bringing them over to Rome. Although Zenobia was outnumbered, she strode forward. The Romans had 3 known encounters with Zenobia's forces. The first 2 were so similar in condition that only a few facts separate them. The first encounter was near Antioch, and the second near Emesa in Syria. In both battles, the armies were evenly matched in size and skill. But Aurelian had one expertise Zenobia lacked. He, like most Roman leaders, had proficient tactical maneuvers. Zenobia relied on sheer strength, something she always had in supply. The first 2 battles ran along these lines. Aurelian commanded his army to feign a retreat after the battle began to demonstrate the outcome. In an attempt to flaunt her strength, Zenobia had her men follow the Romans. After a while, her men became tired, and at this point Aurelian had his battalion circle around and his army attack the Palmyrans in their weak state. During the first battle, Zenobia had her men withdraw, but during the second battle, Zenobia fled on her own and returned to where she felt safest, in Palmyra. The third and final battle was more of a siege. The Romans surrounded Palmyra, but Zenobia was not about to give up without a fight. A quote from a letter of Aurelian's to Muscapor, an assistant, states, "It is impossible to enumerate her warlike preparations, of stones, of arrows, and of every species of missile weapon. Every part of the wall is provided with 2 or 3 catapults, and artificial fires are thrown from her military engines." Zenobia did not know that her allies, the Saracens and the Armenians, had compromised with the Romans. She continued to hope that the Roman army would be weakened when her allies arrived. Aurelian had different plans. He attacked, hoping to force Zenobia into a compromise. He made an effort to keep the city in one piece while attacking. This center of trade would be worthless if it was destroyed. Zenobia took advantage of the protection by staying behind the walls. At this checkmate, Aurelian offered a compromise. The citizens would remain safe, and Zenobia would escape, but with none of her riches. In her pride, Zenobia rejected the terms, and in a desperate attempt, she fled Palmyra just as a peasant. Zenobia made it as far as the Euphrates River before she was caught by the swift Roman cavalry. Zenobia was captured and was taken to Rome, where she was paraded, dressed in an array of exotic clothing and precious jewels, the weight so heavy she could hardly stand. She was humiliated in order to mock her for trying to take a man's place. Ironically enough, after the parades, she was officially pardoned because she was a woman. It is said that she married a Roman governor and lived the rest of her life in Tivoli. Aurelian, on the other hand, lived only for another 2 years. He was murdered by several generals who had committed crimes and feared his punishment. As for Palmyra, the city was sacked and reduced to ruins when the inhabitants revolted against Roman power a year after Zenobia was captured. The prospering city became a rubble of stones and a feast for future French archaeologists. Queen Zenobia reduced her beautiful and glittering city to dust because of her own desires. The struggle between Palmyra and Rome was not only a conflict of political interest, but of personal advantage. Aurelian strove to gain territory for Rome, while Zenobia strove to maintain independence. The large egos of both the leaders prevented compromises to solve the situation neatly. Although Palmyra is in ruins, the beauty it had before conflicting interests destroyed it still lingers.